Hello and welcome everyone to Twin Flames, the Great Spiritual Awakening podcast. My name is Dennis. I'm a certified ascension coach with Twin Flames Universe and your host. And just to add a quick sentence about myself, I've been on my Twin Flame journey for a couple of years now, and I'm in Twin Flame Union thanks to the teachings of Union that you can find at twinflamesuniverse.com. For today, I am very excited to have with me Twin Flames in Union, Daniel and Cristina as guests. Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you doing?
We're doing great. First, just thank you so much for having us here. We're happy to be here and, share about ourselves and our union. And yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Thank you for being here. I'm really, really excited to have you and to hear about your story in detail and also about some of the newer stuff that I don't even know about. I want to jump in with you pretty much right away and ask you the first question, which would be, how did the Twin Flame journey start for each of you? How did you find Twin Flames Universe and how did you find out about Twin Flames?
Good question. So for me, I want to say that things started like changing in my life. I want to say about 2009-ish, where I knew that something was off in my life. Like I wasn't happy in my life, but it was still like in the back of my mind at that time. And then fast forward a little bit to 2011, I had just gotten out of like a terrible relationship that left me kind of devastated at the time. And at that time, I was in a very low place and I had a lot of feelings to work through. And after healing through that, I actually, believe it or not, in like 2012 or so, I found Paramahansa Yogananda's Autobiography of Yogi. It was a book that my brother had recommended to me. And I began reading that book and, sort of building a relationship with Yogananda in my heart and like getting acquainted there. And then I actually had a spiritual awakening at that time. Like as soon as I finished the book, sometime around that time, I had a spiritual awakening. And there was something that was happening in my consciousness where there was like a revelation that I had where I saw myself with a woman and we kind of like merged together like that. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what that means, but like things were kind of revealing themselves and stuff like that. And a few years later, like I had researched like I was like, what's going on? Like what is all this about? And I had found Twin Flames online. At that time, I was living abroad. I was actually living in Japan and working in Japan at the time. And things were starting to make sense. When I found out what like Twin Flames were, like the puzzle pieces started fitting into place. And at that time, I was experiencing a false twin flame experience. There was someone that I was, I had experienced all the signs and symptoms. I had like, how people talk about, telepathy or like all these feelings. I experienced all of that, and that actually was the catalyst that made me search for twin flames. But anyways, at that time I searched online and I was searching for resources to learn more about it. And I actually found Twin Flame Ascension School. Actually, first, I found Twin Flames Finding Your Ultimate Lover, Jeff and Shaleia's book. And I was kind of blown away. It like was speaking directly to me at that time. Like I was like, holy cow, this is like exactly it. Then I found eventually Twin Flame Ascension School and subscribed to the classes. And from there, I joined the community. And then eventually from there, like me and Cristina had known each other in the community or known of each other. And then eventually like came together. Yeah. Sorry, that was a little long-winded, but
no, that's okay. And we'll get to the part where you actually realize that you're twin flames and all of that in a moment, because I'm excited to hear about that part. But yeah, I would love to hear from you, Cristina, how your journey started.
Yeah. So I had always kind of like like in the background sort of studied some basic like spirituality things like law of attraction, and stuff like that. But it was probably around 2016. I broke up with a boyfriend that I had, and I was just really done with like dating and like being in relationships that, you know, didn't really mean much to me. And or like weren't going anywhere. And like yeah, like I just kind of like made this decision, or just like the next relationship I get into, like I just want it to be like my person. Like I'm not interested in like getting into a relationship and having it not work out anymore. Like I'm kind of done with that. And so yeah, like around that time I also began having like a spiritual awakening, in the sense of like, you know, all those signs and synchronicities and all those things that everyone talks about happening. And I did start having like a false twin flame experience. And yeah, so I guess like, yeah, it was around 2016. I started kind of just like looking online, looking on YouTube, you know, like most people. And I started like watching like tarot readings and all those sorts of things. And yeah, like, I guess like some time went by, and I remember just feeling like, you know, nothing changes, and like nothing that people predict seems to like come true for me, you know. And like I was like, there's gotta be, like, I was really searching for like, there's gotta be like a way to, you know, to really like have like work towards something, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was just like, so it's just like struck by lightning and that's it, you know. Like there's got to be a way that you can actually like, you know, have some autonomy here, right? Some choice, right? And so yeah, I guess I was calling that in, and I found yeah, some videos of Jeff and Shaleia from, you know, like LinkedIn, from YouTube, you know. And yeah, like their content was different than what was out there. And actually, like I remember like almost feeling a little uncomfortable with it, just because the vibration was so different. But like I kept coming back to it, and yeah, like the difference between what they were saying and what everyone else was saying was, everyone else was making it sound like this thing that happens to you.
Yeah.
And like you have no control, and like, you know, happens to you. And you know, they were giving actual practical advice.
Yes. And saying you can be happy.
Yeah.
Which no one else was saying.
Yeah. So yeah, they were giving actual practical advice. And so like after a few months of like watching their videos, and I got their book, and you know, I was doing the mirror exercise, and I started, you know, really seeing like results from it. I joined their Twin Flame Ascension school class in like early 2017, before it was like recorded. And yeah, you know, that's really how I got started on my twin flame journey, like for real. I had heard the term in passing, you know, years before that, which is, I think that's how I knew what to Google. But like, besides that, I really didn't know much about it before that.
I see. I really love what you said about how you felt when you found Jeff and Shaleia, that they had like a practical solution to actually finding a person and becoming happy, as Daniel added. I can relate to that so much, because that was my story too, of like, I didn't watch that many YouTube videos, but when I found them, it was like finally people who say how to practically and actually do it, and not just kind of talking about it, but then you're like left there with like kind of like, okay, but now what do I do? How do I make it happen? Like,
right. Yeah, because, you know, I think it's important to honor that like you do have freedom of choice in your life. And yeah, to a certain degree, you know, like you can make choices and like influence the direction of your life, right? And so it wasn't resonating with me that these things are just going to happen to you, you know, and you don't know how, and like that never resonated. And I just, yeah, it felt like well, how,
Yeah, and I think for me, like at the time, again, I was living overseas. I was like experiencing what a lot of people call it a dark night of the soul. But just to explain it easily, what I was experiencing and feeling at the time was feeling like disconnected from everything, and like a lot of things weren't making sense. But when I saw Jeff and Shaleia's videos, it was like the one thing, like what they were saying felt like a connection in my heart. It felt like a connection that immediately drew my attention to like, there's something different here.
Yeah.
And that's, like Cristina said, what kept me coming back.
Right. Yeah. Like, it was different than what I had seen, and because the vibration like was totally different than everything else, and is
absolutely
totally different than everything else out there, which like a lot of stuff was also fear-based, like,
yeah.
So yeah, like that's basically how I got started with it. And also at that time in my life, there was a lot of things were changing too.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a transition in my life anyway, too. So it was definitely like this clear like time of shifts in my life. So
I see. Awesome. Well, you mentioned, Cristina, that when you found the Twin Flames universe in Jeff and Shaleia, you became a live student of Twin Flame Ascension School even before the classes were recorded. And I think you joined live LPC a bit later.
Yeah.
Is that correct? And you, Daniel, you became a live Twin Flame Ascension School student too, but a bit like after the classes started being recorded.
Yeah. So I originally, when they were doing subscriptions, I joined, I want to say, Twin Flame Ascension School in June of 2016. And then, June of 2017.
Yeah.
And then I joined the live classes after moving back to America in November of 2018.
Gotcha.
2017. 2017.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, good. So I'm wondering, what was the time of being a live Twin Flame Ascension School, and in your case, Cristina, also live purpose class student, like? What did you experience during that time, and how was it having like these weekly classes with Jeff and Shaleia and that really direct support from them on your Twin Flame journey?
Yeah, well, it was definitely like, I don't think like any of us really kind of knew like a whole lot about where things were going, we just were grateful to receive the support, right? And like it was very grounding. Like it was just this like one thing that I was doing every week to support my journey, and ground my journey. And it really helped me like at a time where like I had a lot of confusion in my life at that time, and it just helped. It was really grounding and supportive to have that, that just met every week and kind of like would like reorient me to like what was important.
Yeah, and I would say for me, very, very similar. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said like I was in a transitional period in my life. Not a lot of things were making sense, but being in the classes was kind of, it felt like, yes, okay, this is what I need. Like this is what I need with where I'm at right now and what I'm looking for. So it felt very fitting and helpful. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and even like watching recordings, like it's the same energy of like something to like reorient you, ground you into like what's really important, ground you back into your heart, right? Yeah. Because I think like if you don't provide yourself that support, like you can easily like get distracted with what's going on in your everyday life, right? And so at that time it was a really important I was trying to find a good word for it, but it was really important support in a time of like kind of just not really knowing what was happening, like what direction my life was moving in. So
kind of like a pillar.
Yes, there we go.
There we go.
I was going to say lighthouse, but that's not right. But yeah. Yeah.
I see, gotcha. Also, at this moment, I just want to quickly mention to all our listeners, if you want to subscribe to Life Purpose Class or Twin Flame Ascension School, you can find all of that at twinflamesuniverse.com. And yeah, you definitely want these classes on your journey because they show you how to get into Harmonious Union, and that's what we're all here for. But coming back to you too, so during this time, like I've watched your story in these live classes, and I've seen you see all these people who are in the live classes evolve and change, and then it's so much fun always to like watch what actually happens after the classes and how these people continue on their journey. And for the two of you during your entire life student phase, let's just call it that, you were working through a false twin flame experience, and I am wondering if you could share a bit about that experience, what you went through, and also what you feel you learned from your false twin flame experience.
Sure. Yeah, so for me, my false twin flame experience started back in 2013. And it was very real to me at the time. Like everything I was experiencing was all the feelings that people talk about. This happened while I was in college, and all the feelings that people talk about where they experience like not being able to like stop thinking about this person, or their twin flame, and feeling kind of like there's no way to stop and it keeps going deeper, and all these crazy emotions. I felt it all, right? Same thing. And yeah, and so I didn't realize that it was a false twin flame experience until after having joined Twin Flame Ascension School. Yeah, sorry, I got a little off track there, but
it's okay.
Yeah, well, I can just speak to my experience. Like looking back on it now, what it really was a part of me that was like disconnected from myself and like not really present with myself, and so like projecting a lot of feelings outward. And how it was eventually, like how things eventually came to pass was just like, the more that I healed, like the less I really resonated with this person. And also the more that like, like there was like no opening in my life, right? Like for this person. So like it was like just becoming more and more like clear. And I think like as I began being more present with myself, and more grounded in my own reality, like kind of, I think it was a place where I also developed more of a sense of self in general. I just experienced less and less resonance. And then it was really about just healing like an attachment to an illusion, which was really kind of, I think what like made the experience persist for so long, but yeah, like that's really it. Like I feel like as I healed that, like, and just began to really just focus on myself and my life and my relationship with God, like like it just became more and more clear until I finally was able to release that attachment to that illusion.
Yeah, and I think for me, thank you, that helps like ground me a little here. Yeah, for me, I was also experiencing a false twin flame experience just before Twin Flame Ascension School. This is actually a second false twin flame experience.
Okay, so you had one before.
I had one before moving to Japan, after coming back, when I knew what twin flames were.
Gotcha.
Then I had attracted someone new that I thought was a twin flame. So this person was actually someone that I worked with, and at that time, this person was male. This person was a man that I was attracted to. Back then, I identified as a gay man. But same thing, like I thought it was very natural for me, and it was just something that I was experiencing. I was very attracted to this person, but I joined Twin Flame Ascension School, and basically just like I was just focused on me and just like my healing and my progress and everything like that. And nothing specific, mainly just healing old wounds, things from childhood, different traumas from childhood, things like that. And I noticed that as I began to heal, something in my consciousness began to like change and shift. And yeah, eventually it was revealed that that person was a false twin flame. And surprise, my twin flame was revealed. So yeah.
Yeah, let's get into that. So you both were in the community for like 2 years or almost like 3 years, I believe, before you like found out that you're twin flames.
Yeah, I think it was probably about 2.5 years.
Yeah. And I knew of, of Cristina because even when I was living in Japan at the time, like I would see her in the live classes and stuff like that. It was always funny because I was like, God, she just has the same upsets as me. Like, she's going through the exact same thing that I'm going through. But yeah, we knew of each other, and I felt like we didn't really know each other and communicate with each other until we had like progressed deeper into our own twin flame journeys.
Yeah, like Daniel and I didn't really vibe together, even though we were in the community. Like I really didn't talk to him much for a long time because that's just not where I was looking, and like I wasn't interested, like that, like we just didn't we've healed a lot of like separation consciousness to even be able to like recognize each other as twin flames, right? And that's like a huge part of the journey, right? Like you can't recognize your twin flame unless you can like recognize yourself to a degree, right? And so yeah, like we were in the community, and I always thought he was like, like a nice guy, but we didn't really like vibe together much. When I started working in earnest, like on my life purpose, then we did begin to like actually like work together. And that was actually like how I even started talking to him, because a lot of like I would have really had no reason to message him at all, had that not been the case.
We were just kind of doing our own things.
Yeah, that was the case for a lot of people, because we did have over the years a lot of people that were twin flames and in the community and didn't know that they were twin flames. And it's almost like this, as you mentioned, Cristina, like you really have to, like it's an inner state that you reach to, like a vibration of like recognizing yourself and like reaching the vibration of union when you see your twin flame. And before that, it's almost funny how like invisible they are. It is to you that they're your twin flame.
And like I always actually think that it's really remarkable because as I really started doing this work in earnest, like Daniel was initially on the other side of the world, right? Like he was living in Japan, and then he moved back to the United States only just like within, I mean, of course, I was not like aware of any of this, but like, it was only like 3 or 4 months after I started doing Twin Flame Ascension School classes, he like moved to United States and then like joined the community not long after. So like I vibed in my twin flame like really soon. And like, it took longer for me to like recognize him because, everyone has their healing journey, but like, I think that's actually the case for a lot of people, but you don't like realize that, because you'll recognize your twin flame when you recognize them. But when you start like, when you choose to do the twin flame journey in earnest, like you probably vibe your twin flame into your life earlier than you think,
Yep, absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. So I always think about that. But yeah.
So when you first started working together, you was there anything at all where you were like kind of feeling like, ooh, I have a special connection with this person, I feel something, like at all? Or was it just completely, okay, we get along well and I have my twin flame over there?
Well, like it was actually like a pretty, like professional, like relationship for a while, like just like a coworker. But like I did notice that, there was this one time I also noticed like it kind of became the case where like we were talking more frequently, but also again, just about work,
Yeah.
And like I had this incident where like something happened with my computer.
Yeah.
And like normally like I'm pretty good at fixing my computer myself, but like Daniel has like an IT background.
It just so happened that I was
Yeah.
working, with computer tech support and stuff like that.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, I can help you with that.
Yeah. And yeah, I would never even actually ask for help because like I said, like I can figure it out, like, twin flames, right? But like like I would have just looked it up myself, but I think Daniel offered or something. I don't even actually remember what the problem was.
I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, so I got on a Zoom call with him and he was helping me work it out. And I remember like just like being really I noticed like, oh, he has a very like kind nature in how he like helps someone through something, and he's very like sweet and compassionate when he helps someone through stuff. And I just remember thinking like, oh, like, he'd probably like, be a good man for someone.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's really sweet. Oh.
Yeah, I think for me, I can be pretty oblivious about things sometimes. For me, I didn't notice at that time anything different. I knew that when she had mentioned that she was having computer issues, something inside me, which now I know was, God, was like, oh no, you can help here. Like you can help here. Just offer to help. And so I did. And at the time, I did not suspect anything. But that was really like the time when that was just like before, like we came together.
Yeah. Like even then though, I just was like, oh, that was nice. Like I didn't really think too much of it, although it did kind of touch me in my heart, like it was like, it stuck with me. But yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned before I'm getting to the next part where you're actually finding out that you're twin flames. I have just one more question. You mentioned, Cristina, that you kind of started attracting Daniel into your life, like you guys started talking when you really started diving into your life purpose.
Yeah.
So I am curious to hear from what your experience was with how your life purpose affects your twin flame union.
Yeah, absolutely. So, your life purpose, like kind of by definition, is, the unique way that you express into reality, right? Like your unique gifts, your unique service or mode of service, right? In a nutshell. And so like, your life purpose is a huge part of your twin flame journey because, your twin flame journey at its core, like I think a lot of people, make it all about another person and everything like that. But at its core, it's really a discovery of who you really are. And it's like an awakening of your divine self. And, like in this kind of like experience, it's basically like creating your divine reality on earth, right? Like bringing all that to be, right? And so like your true divine partner, your true divine purpose, right? And all other things, right? And that's all part of your twin flame journey. Like it's all one thing, it's your ascension journey, right? So where I'm going with that is that I feel that like this happens for so many people because you're drawing you're expressing another aspect of your genuine divine self. So it's going to magnetize all the other pieces, right? So, and you see yourself more clearly as you work through the blocks in your life purpose. You get to know yourself, you become more confident in yourself. And, you know, that helps you, like, as you develop a stronger sense of self, you can recognize what's not in alignment with you and what is, much more clearly than before. And so, yeah, I think that's why that happens for a lot of people. Because, you know, it's all one thing. It's basically creating your divine reality on earth, right? And so you get one piece and you start to attract all the other pieces, because like the momentum of that starts to pick up.
So for you, basically, when you started diving more into your life purpose, it was really a deeper discovery of who you are, and that's what attracted you to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, like your twin flame will naturally like vibe in, also just because they're gonna have similar interests, you know. And like Daniel and I do have similar interests, even though like we each have our own way of doing certain things, or like you know, I'll be more interested in some things and he'll be more interested in others. At the core, like our interests are fairly similar, and like we express kind of the same thing in a way. And so, yeah, like, you know, you make the same core choices. So as I choose to work on something that's really in alignment with me, so will he, and we'll vibe in together.
Very cool. Daniel, do you have something to add just if I move on to the next question? I feel like you want to say something.
I was just, when Cristina was talking about like having interests together and stuff, before like we were actually together, you know, Cristina and I were cordial to each other, right? We were nice and stuff. And I just saw her as like another person. But then like after coming together, like it was like, holy cow, she like likes everything I like she expresses, like she said, just like me, has the same humor, likes the same things. It was a huge surprise, and it was a huge like joy to be able to like realize that, like, holy cow, she's me.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, let's get to the point where you two actually realized that you were twin flames. How did all of that happen, and how, when you first found out, what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, so so just before that, like I had really kind of just stopped caring about my false twin flame. I was just like, you know, whatever. That'll happen when it happens. I just kind of like gave it up to God, and was like, you know, I just surrendered it basically. And I was just like, I don't really care anymore too much about what happens here. Like, as long as it's me and God, like it'll work itself out, whatever is supposed to happen. So I basically surrendered, you know, like I finally gave up like the attachment that I had there, which I think is like the core piece. Like, in order to manifest any kind of real breakthrough in your spiritual journey, you do have to like give up like whatever attachment it is you're holding to what you think it's supposed to be, or, you know, and let that be revealed, right? So and that goes for anything, but that in this case, that's what happened. I had released the attachment. And so, yeah, so then I had I was going to visit and stay with Jeff and Shaleia for like, you know, like deeper spiritual work. And it was like right when I arrived, like, you know, we got into a conversation about my life. And you know, like we went through like all the signs in the book of like a false twin flame, which is really honestly just logic. You know, like it's just clear, like, does this person want anything to do with you? No. You know, so like yeah, like at the core, at least for me, that was like the clear like sign that it was just like this like all those signs of a false twin flame were true. And then Jeff and Shaleia guided me like into like a meditation. You know, the twin flame meditation that's also in the book. I'm saying that specifically because it's the stuff in the book. Like I was with Jeff and Shaleia and they supported me and guided me, but it's what's in their book, right? So, so yeah, like I just like, they basically invited me to, you know, visualize my twin flame, and I saw Daniel there.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think like in general, like how I process like new information, like I need a little time to like, you know, be okay with it and all of that. And like, but yeah, I very clearly saw Daniel there, you know, and like it was very evident, and I was just really shocked, mostly because I didn't really see him in that way, but I was starting to, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, like I had never bothered to look, you know, like because I had held that other attachment for so long. And so, yeah, that night, like, you know, I messaged Daniel, and he was also like, what are you talking about? But like, you know, we eventually like that evening, like really just got to talking and like hashing things out. And like, you know, I remember that night I went to bed with like a feeling of just like kind of like, again, surrender of like, well, what happens will happen. Like, I'm like, I remember just being like, I'm okay with this, you know. I had kind of like gotten into a state of surrender about it.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for me, I have to give a little bit of a background because my experience was a little bit, it was very much the same, and things were happening, you know, when we talk about our journeys, like they're happening like the same thing, same choices, like identical. But as I mentioned earlier, like I identified as a gay man at that time, and back in 2009, before all of this, and before I even knew what twin flames were, things were changing in my consciousness where even living as a gay man, I always felt like displaced in my consciousness somehow, like something was not fitting somehow in my life. But throughout the years, you know, things progressed. Just before me and Cristina got together, I had also reached a point to where I remember the day, and I remember, you know, lying on my bed and surrendering my twin flame to God, because I was going through like a transitionary period where it's like, and to be clear, like I wasn't focused on like healing sexuality. At that time, I didn't, that's what I identified as, right? I was a gay man. But I was just focused on healing trauma, but there were shifts in my consciousness that were happening where I began to feel like less and less attracted to men, like over time. It just happened naturally. And I started having feelings for an attraction towards women, which I found was very interesting. And at that point, I remember releasing who I believed was my twin flame at that time, because like Cristina said, by that time, I had kind of reached a point where I was like, you know, God, I'm kind of over it. There's no connection here. And I've loved as much as I can. And if things are going to work out, I surrender that to you. And it's like, as soon as I surrendered that, I want to say, you know, lots of things started rapidly changing in my consciousness. I started healing a lot. And within about a week, then I get a random message, you know, from Cristina. And she's like, hey, guess what? You know, this happened. And I think we could be twin flames. And at that time, I was kind of like, okay, like, I think a lot of crying ensued.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of processing. It's like a big shock.
It's
right?
a big shock, right? But at the same time, I had already kind of reached a place to where I'm like, okay, this is something that I can accept, because I had already released my false twin flame. I had already opened the doors to exploring new pieces of myself. And same thing as Cristina said, after the meeting, I went to bed and I was just like, I'm okay with this. Like, okay. And then for me, like, I received a message, or very early in the morning. I didn't really sleep that night. I was processing a lot of feelings and a lot of like thoughts. And I got a message from Shaleia, and we jumped on a Zoom call with Jeff, and they were just helping me work through my feelings, really, and just like anything that was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like really feeling connected to Cristina, like Cristina specifically in that moment. And like it was not, I could not deny it. Like the connection was there. And as soon as like I accepted it, and I accepted that Cristina was my twin flame, like this wave of peace just rushed, like deep peace that I had never felt in my life. Like I thought I knew what peace was. This was peace. And it was like a blanket of peace over me. And I just felt like everything was good in the world.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I went to bed that night. Like I was just like, I'm okay with this. I'm at peace with this. Like whatever happens is gonna happen. We'll just see what unfolds.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say though that like the reason that like, yeah, the reason that I said that, like the signs of a false twin flame, like what it comes down to is like, it's really just like logic, right? But if you're not willing to see those things, like if you have an attachment, like you won't see it. And I remember that like Daniel was sharing like when we all went to New York. So that was even like a year and a half before that, maybe, I don't remember, but you were sharing that you had a vision that God showed you that your twin flame was a woman with long dark hair, like a Latin woman with long dark hair. And so and even at the time, like you were like, I have no idea what that means, and I was like next to you, but like like you're not ready to see it till you see it.
Yes.
I remember at the time you'd be like, I don't know what that means. And it's like, it means what it means, Daniel, but
Yeah, it's just,
yeah,
you have to move with an open heart, and you have to
Right.
trust, and really, as Jeff and Shaleia always say, like really love yourself fully and be honest with what you're feeling, and it's okay to like feel what you're feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, it can all be right in front of you, but until you're ready to see it, you're not going to see it. And you're not even going to apply logic until you're ready to see it,
Yeah.
and then it's there. Right. Like, at least that's how it happened for us.
That's
like
how it happened for
when
us,
you look back, like it was all there.
I could see it all now.
Yeah,
like,
but
oh, okay.
It's a journey of being able to see what's there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I think you bring up a really important point, because for one, this also perfectly speaks to, you have to take the inner journey, like there's no other way around it. You can't go about trying to figure it out, because I think this is what so many people, especially when it comes to figuring out if someone is your true or your false twin flame, get into. It's kind of like you try to figure it out, but like no matter how much you try to do that, if you haven't gone through the healing that you need to go through, you're not going to reach the truth, and you're not going to be able to see that. So
saying the truth if you're not open, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Cristina.
No, I was just agreeing with you that like,
Okay.
if you're not ready to heal or see it, what's right in front of you, there's healing to be done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think one thing that helped me is it was okay to go like at a pace that felt like good to me. And when I was ready to receive the, my truth, great. But everyone's journey is different, right?
Yeah. And I'm really grateful for how everything happened, because like God also gives you the nudges that you need, right, when you're stuck. So like, everything happens exactly perfectly for you. Right. And like, I manifested the experience that I needed, right? Like I was really grateful to have received that personal support, from Jeff and Shaleia, because like that was what I needed. And that was, it was an honor to receive that. Right. But like, all of the information that they shared with me, they've already shared. It was things from their book, you know? And so, yeah, like, everybody has access to the way to heal into that truth. Yeah.
Yep. I love that. And this is something that I believe Jeff and Shaleia have also pointed out, that like actually everything we need has already been given to us and is already being shared in the teaching. And I know that sometimes with spirituality or on this journey, like if you're not at this place where you really realize that you have the truth and all the tools you need in front of you, you tend to still wander around looking for something and trying to seek answers. But once you realize like, well, everything I need is really, I already have it. It's in Twin Flame Ascension School, it's in Life Purpose class, it's in the book, it's really in all of the Twin Flames Universe products. And that's really all I need to have Harmonious Union, live my life purpose, and for the rest of my journey until perfect union. And you can really relax into already having it and use the resources you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially, you know, like, I feel like that is actually just a spiritual truth that you all like, and that's something actually like Jeff has shared with us like multiple times, like that he like with us specifically, because I think that is a block that we work through, that like God gives you everything you need to succeed. Like God's already given you everything that you need to succeed. And so like if you need something, you'll have it. You know, and so like you don't need to like go searching outside of yourself for it. Like God will present you with what it is you need. You have to choose to receive it though.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. It's a really powerful healing piece. So yeah, once you recognize that it's, or like came to that night where you were like, you, Cristina, shared with Daniel, hey, I think we're twin flames, and you both went to bed, surrendered. What happened afterwards? Was that like already for you? Was it already clear for you, okay, we're twin flames, let's move in together and build a life? Or how did it transpire from there?
Well, I think that it was still like a time of exploration where we were exploring things in our consciousness, even though we had acknowledged that we were twin flames. You know, there's still stuff to work through at that time.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I left my hometown and went to go live with Cristina. She was at that time with Jeff and Shaleia, like, you know, practicing spirituality. And I went and lived with them for some time. And then after that, we both moved back to our fabulous apartment here. And we live together now.
Yeah. But yeah, like what I want to kind of make sure that we clarify is like that night when we went to bed, like you always go deeper in revealing your twin flame and in accepting your twin flame. I feel like you're gonna like, you know, go deeper and deeper in that for a long time, right? Until you're in perfect union, right? But like, yeah, like we had reached a point of acceptance, you know, that night, like that was like appropriate for that point, right? But then there was a lot of getting to know each other and a lot of deepening of our relationship, right? In order to like keep proving it, right? Like you don't ever want to just like take something at face value. Like
it's a process.
You need to really like test it out and really like get clear, you know? So yeah, like there was like, even though like we had, you know, we were at peace with it that one night, like there was also like further exploration and further deepening, right? To really like get clear there. And yeah, there were times where like, you know, we had doubts and all these things and we had to work through that.
I see. So once you moved in together, what was your experience like of, I guess, bringing your beforehand separate lives together and starting to really partner in your life purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like we still like are moving through a process of going deeper and deeper with that. But you know, like we were fortunate to have a lot of support spiritually, like with being able to do that. Like, yeah, first we did that, like, you know, with Jeff and Shaleia, and then moved out here. And I mean, it was a process. I don't know how to describe it other than, like, you know, you face the problems in front of you and you work through them.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process, right? There are always new challenges that arise, and there always will be until perfect union, or enlightenment, right, is what I mean by that. Same thing. But yeah, it's always a process and it's always ongoing.
But, like, you know, we received a lot of support from the community, and we received a lot of support from working with ascension coaches weekly, you know, like, so that's
Absolutely.
like, if you're asking for the how, yeah, we received a lot of support, like working with a coach and doing the mirror exercise, and even like working, you know, healing through traumas. Like there would be points where we would hit kind of a wall in certain parts of our healing, and it was because, like, we discovered we had, like, actually like a trauma there. And so we actually both went through, like, we did like the MAP healing program, mind alignment process, right? To heal through traumas, and that helped us go deeper in our healing. And I just found that the more that I go deeper into who I am, and the more that I heal, like, upsets within myself, the easier it is to partner with Daniel. And other people too, right? Because as you deepen your sense of who you are, like, you're not as affected by what other people present to you.
Right. And I think it's important to say that, like, once you come together with your twin flame, the problems, like the blocks, I should say, don't stop. Like there are times where me and Cristina have things to work through, very real challenges. And like she was saying, we partner together and we use like the mirror exercise and like work through them. And yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure about time. So that's why
I've got that handled. All good.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I think something that's really important to mention, actually, it's something that, you know, we've been working through this whole time, is once you're together with your twin flame, yes, your twin flame is going to amplify your inner state. So there's that. And like, you do need to kind of be like aware of that. Like, we both felt like we were, you know, we felt really confident in our inner work and in our spiritual abilities. And then you get together with your twin flame and it's like you're starting from square one.
Yeah.
And you don't know anything. And so you have to go deeper. And one of the things that like was initially a challenge for us, and like we continue to go deeper here, because I think we're both just really independent and maybe a little stubborn people, but like is like partnering together with inner work. Like in the beginning, we had a hard time with this, and this is something that we've gone deeper in. And I feel like I'm really proud of the direction that we've or how much we've improved here. But yeah, like we would go off into our corners and work out our upsets. And that you know, if I can share anything, like the sooner you get through that, the sooner you're willing to work together, the faster you'll move. Yeah. Right. Because that's where like you're just going to move so much faster, you know, and it's like having a built-in coach, right? Yep. Yeah. And like it's really important to be willing to do inner work together. And honestly, like that was a challenge for us. Like we both liked to go into our corner and do our inner work and then come to peace. And then we would find that we would come to peace and then have a talk about it. And then we'd be upset again.
Round 2, fight.
Yeah, because we didn't actually like come to a conclusion together, you know? So yeah, that's I think like the biggest thing that we've been learning and improving on together is healing together, right? Like healing separation in how we choose to heal.
Yeah.
I see. you were a scientist. I mean, you are a scientist, Cristina. That's what you actually were doing even while you were a live TIFA student. And later on, you started going full in with being a certified ascension coach. And you mentioned, Daniel, you had the background in IT, and I know you also doing design and
Graphic design.
art, graphic design. And you obviously you're both certified ascension coaches. You have your ascension coaching business, helping other couples come into union. But is what you were doing before, meaning like science and IT, graphic design, is that something that you feel is still part of your bigger life purpose and something that you want to explore?
Absolutely.
Going forward?
Yeah. And I feel that like God has a way for all of that to manifest, right? And I think that's really important to recognize that, like, you know, you have your own, like, all of the things that you've been doing before, like, they're not random, right? You know, all of that does build into your deeper life purpose. And everybody has, like, you know, everybody has their specific thing that they offer, right?
Yeah, and I think for me, this is still something I'm exploring regarding like design, or my different skill sets that God essentially has trained me for, like my whole life, really. Yeah, you know, I have, it feels good to dream about creating children's books that teach this topic, or creating Japanese manga. You know, manga is very popular. If you comic books, Japanese comic books are very popular today. And you know, I have stories and dreams about these sorts of things, and I think that at some point it would be great, you know, to bring all that. I think right now the important thing for us that God has been pointing us to is like
our
foundation, expanding our foundation, and going from there. So, but ultimately, yes, to answer your question, I do see that factors in still. Even today, I'm still doing design for twin flame stuff and everything. So
yeah, like the things that you love are always, you know, they're not random. They were given to you by God, but you do have to be willing to like surrender, like recognizing that everything that you love is a gift from God, and like surrender it to God, right? And God will show you, you know, how those pieces are going to come together, right? And so, yeah, of course, I do feel like all of that will come to pass in a way, you know, but I'm also like, you know, however it does is fine, because you know, working on what's in front of you is what's always going to be most satisfying.
Absolutely. I have one last question for you before we near the end for today. And the question would be, if you could go back to the very beginning of your twin flame journey, to the version of you back then, and give yourself a message or a piece of advice, what would that be?
The piece of advice that, that's bringing up some feelings here, good feelings. I first, just thinking about my old self, I have compassion for myself. And I think the message that has always stuck with me, one of the most powerful messages that Jeff has taught, and I hold it close to my heart, is to keep persisting. I would tell myself that it does get better, and keep going, keep persisting. Your life will change. Things will change if you just keep going.
Yeah, I like that. What I would tell myself is, you know, just worry about you. Don't put so much focus outside of you. Don't worry so much about people outside of you and all that sort of stuff. Just focus on being present with myself and loving the people in my life fully. You know, I think I always had this bad habit of spending a lot of time like projecting into the future. And I think if I, you know, any advice I would give myself in any phase of my life really is like, just like live in the present. Yeah.
I love both of these. Thank you for
sharing. That was really good. I feel that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I thank you very much for being here today and sharing your story. I feel like this hour has just like flown by. It literally felt like 20 minutes. I'm like, oh wow, okay, the entire hour has already passed. But yeah, it was an absolute delight to listen to you and to everything you shared. And thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. I feel very good at having had the opportunity to share my story, and hopefully it resonates with others out there and can help them if maybe they're experiencing the same things. But thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure.
It was really fun.
Very happy to hear. And also for everyone who is listening, I want to thank you for joining us today and listening in. And if you desire to find out how you can hear twin flame separation for good and reunite with your ultimate lover, then I invite all of you to go over to twinflamesuniverse.com. We also have a free Twin Flame Ascension introductory course that I can only highly recommend. It consists of 8 lessons and it's absolutely phenomenal. I love that course. It's written by Jeff and Shaleia, so definitely sign up for that. And otherwise, we will be back next week with a new episode. And I wish all of you much success and blessings on your twin flame journey.